All right, everybody, this is video 513. It is our third video, our final video for our only standard in Unit 5. We're still working with describing key graphical characteristics of different functions, which we took care of in the first video, and performing function operations, which we took care of in the second video, but we're going to be looking at functions using tables and graphs and using some composition that way. So whenever you're ready, let's get started. All right, so function operations using a table. So here I've got a table where I have x values, but I have one set of y values and I have a second set of y values. So if I were to substitute a number into the f function, the first one, if I put in a -2, my output is a -3. But if I put a -2 into the g function, it's undefined, as if it can't exist there. It's not part. So the -2 actually leads to an issue. So in other words, -2 is actually not part of the domain because the function is undefined there. If I put a 0 into the f function, I get a 1. But if I put a 0 into the g function, I get a 0. So you can kind of see how this works. So if we take a look here, if I want f plus g of 4, then what I want to find is f of 4 plus g of 4. And I'm going to simply add those two together. This would work whether it was subtraction or so on, as you'll see. So f of 4 is 9, and g of 4 is 2. So I have 9 plus 2 is 11. In this case, I want f of 1 times g of 1. So go ahead and find that. And the answer is 3. In the next one, I want f minus g of -2. That's how it would be pronounced, f minus g of -2. Well, that simply means I want f of -2 minus g of -2. So if we take a look at that, we'd say, well, f of -2 is -3, but g of -2 is undefined, which does not make the entire operation undefined, but it just makes that portion undefined. So the answer is simply a -3. Here we have f of g, or f divided by g, of 0. Well, I want f of 0 divided by g of 0. So let's see what happens. When I put in an f of 0, I get a 1. And when I put a 0 into the g function, I get a 0. The problem with this is I cannot divide by 0, so the result of f divided by g of 0 is that it is an undefined expression. I'm not going to use the words no solution because I'm not solving for anything. I'm just evaluating. Let's take a look at another one. So on this one, I've got a graph, and one of my functions is labeled f of x, and the other function, the line over here, which I'm going to put arrows on it, is labeled g of x. Now my f function is kind of like a sine wave from like trigonometry, and you'll get to see that when you take trig next year, but this is a sine curve. It's this oscillating function. It looks like it might something you'd see in music if you're looking at like the amplitude and seeing some beats, or maybe even something you'd see on a doctor's screen if we were looking at heart rate. So these are kind of things that make this shape, and it's just it repeats itself over and over again in this pattern. But let's go ahead and evaluate it. We're going to let f and g have the values that are established on this graph, and we're going to use these to evaluate. So let's start with f plus g of 1. So I want to find f of 1 plus g of 1. Now remember, the x is the 1 value, so I'm looking for the y's. So I know the x is 1. I want to know what the y values are. So if I go to f of 1, that's right here. So that value is an output of 1. If I go to g of 1, my output is -1. So I have +1 plus -1 is 0. F of 2 minus g of 3. So I have to first find f of 2, which is 0, minus g of 3, which is 3. So this outcome is -3. All right, here I want f of -1 times g of -1. So I will simply find f of -1, so that's the y value right there, And then g of negative 1, which looks like it's right here at negative 5. So I have negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. And here I am dividing f divided by g of 0. So I want f of 0 divided by g of 0. Well, f of 0 is 0 and g of 0 is negative 3. So it's 0 divided by negative 3, which is 0. All right, that's it.